What's up, Barnhill family? It's another special episode of the Barnhill Brothers Show, and it's fight week, so we got some predictions for you.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy that we're kind of getting back into the swing of things of having weekly fight cards, not only in the UFC, but in Bellator as well. So as a fight fan, you couldn't be happier for how they're handling the quarantine and all that.
Absolutely, and not only are they putting on a lot of fight cards, but a lot of really good talent on a weekly basis. Very consistent, very high level stuff. So it's great. This week we have a fight night. We sort of are building up to the big August showdown, the DC Stipe 3.
Yeah, that card's stacked.
Super stacked. But there's some really good fights in the interim, and this weekend is no exception. So we've got Edmen Shahbazyan, the young stud, the young undefeated stud, taking on the tested and proven Derek Brunson.
Right.
So why don't we break that card down bottom to top?
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to give you guys our predictions. We're going to let you know how we think these fights are going to go. And guys, last week we were 5-2, both of us. We picked a little differently, but we both arrived at a record of 5-2, which I'll say is pretty respectable.
Yeah, better than most people's predictions out there.
Yeah, if you would have bet with the Barnhill brothers, you would have made money last week, just saying.
And if you would have listened to me, you would have bet on all the fighters that lost, and that probably would have lost you some money and made you a little angry. But if I get them right again this week, then I think we're on to something.
Then you know we're on to something for sure.
But who do we have first?
Yeah, so let's break the card down from the beginning of the main card. We have Kevin Holland versus Trevin Giles. Both of these gentlemen are from Texas.
Yeah.
And we live in Texas. A lot of you know that. So we got a lot of love for this fight.
Yeah. Giles is H-Town.
Yeah, Giles in particular. He is not only H-Town, Houston represent. He is an HPD officer. So
H-Town's finest.
Yes. So sort of like the Houston version of Stipe, if you will.
Yeah.
Officer by day and fighter by night.
Yeah, if he can get in the win column and just keep the momentum going, that's as marketable as you can be. I mean, talk about, it's exactly the story with Stipe. Like, how it doesn't get much better than somebody that literally works hard for a living and works their ass off in the cage.
Yes. And so both of these guys are, they're up and comers.
Yeah.
Giles is coming off a split decision win against James Krause that happened here in Houston. You were actually at that fight.
Yeah. And Krause took it on short notice, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that was great that he did that. I think the circumstance was he was somebody's coach that stepped in, right?
Yeah.
And
a weight class above, yeah.
That is awesome. And so Holland, his biggest fight, although he did not win the fight, he went to decision with Thiago Santos.
Yeah.
So let's jump into this one. Are you picking against the Houston fighter?
I can't pick against him. I think it's going to be a hard-fought fight, and really, Holland has shown that he can compete, and I think this is a perfect matchup stylistically for both of the guys. I see it going to decision, and I'm going to give it to the Houston Police Department zone, Trevin Giles.
Yeah. So, anybody that goes to a decision with Thiago Santos, whether it be a loss or a win, is nobody to mess around with. So
sure.
Holland is a very game fighter. That being said, I do think Giles is going to get it done. He's going to edge out. I'm going to say a late finish, like an end of second, early third round finish. Maybe by a flurry of strikes.
Okay.
I think Houston's finest gets it done.
Yeah, and our predictions on that one might be a little biased. I mean, he's from Houston.
Yeah. Don't hold our feet to the fire for that one. It's very difficult.
Check the hat. That's Rockets right there. Houston Rockets.
That's right. They're about to be back in action too. We might have to break down some hard 3-pointers.
Absolutely.
But for today, we got MMA. So next we have Bobby Green versus Lando Vanata, the always exciting, groovy Venata. How do you see this one going?
I love watching Groovy fight. I think he has an entertaining style. He's just one of those guys that whenever he's on, I'm going to tune in to check it out because he's a fun fighter.
Absolutely. And, he was at the BMF Ranch with Cowboy Cerrone. He's now at Jackson Wink MMA. He's only 28 years old. I think his game is coming together quite nicely.
See, I've always think of him as older than that.
Yeah, me too. But he actually is a young fighter. So he's got a lot still to grow and to learn. But I think I like him in this fight. Bobby Green is a tough fighter. he is coming off a decision win versus Clay Guida.
Yeah.
Which is, Clay Guida is no walk in the park for anybody. Yeah. So Green is going to bring some challenges to the table. It's going to be one of Lando's toughest tests yet, but I think Lando gets it done in a lopsided decision.
Lopsided. Okay. I'm going to go Bobby Green. I think he gets it done, and he gets it done early.
Okay.
I just see that happening. Sometimes you have these gut feelings, and sometimes you speak on those, and usually you're wrong on them, but sometimes you're right. So I'm going to go Bobby Green early KO.
Okay, Bobby Green it is. So that we've differed for the first time.
Yeah, there we go.
Alrighty, so
next
we have the always exciting Vincente Luque. He's fighting Randy Brown.
Stud. Both studs. Lucente Valenche is...
I think you just mixed our jiu-jitsu coach, Lucas Valenche, with Vincente Luque.
Either way, there's no way of knowing, but Luque is a stud. He's ranked in the top 15. I saw on Ariel and DC's show, Ariel asked if Hamzat Chimaev, the hottest thing from Fight Island, would be ready to fight somebody like him. DC said no. Personally, if the schedules were to line up properly, I think go ahead and throw him into the top 15, see what happens. Luque is probably a great opponent for him, but from what we hear, Hamzat is actively working with Dana to get his work visa, and all that stuff in order so he can arrive for the August 15th pay-per-view, which is so cool to me.
Yeah, as if that card wasn't already stacked enough. I mean, I guess you can turn around that quickly when you've only been hit twice. And
I have a feeling we're going to be bringing up Hamzat's name a lot in this podcast in the years to come, but especially over the next few months.
Yes, and so if we look at this fight, Luque versus Brown, they've only got one common opponent to compare, and that's Nico Price. Luque was able to get past Price. Brown was stopped by Price.
Okay.
So that and the fact that Luque is an explosive, fun fighter, I'm picking Luque in this one. I think he gets it done, and I think he gets it done in the second round by TKO.
Yeah. I was going to say TKO or just a unanimous decision for Luque. But, he's fighting a stud. Anything can happen. And Nico Price is he's one of those guys that reminds me of Jack Hermanson. Just... You would not want to roll with him.
No,
you would not want to spar with him because he looks
like the guy's got a guy that's got some grip strength.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, so I'm not picking against anybody that has beaten Nico Price. Unless they give me a compelling reason not to. So I'm going with Luque in that one.
That's a hot main card so far. What we have next?
Yeah. So next we got Jennifer Maia, and she's taking on JoJo Calderwood.
Is that the daughter of Damian Maia?
I don't think so.
For her grappling's sake, she would probably hope so, but I don't think so. JoJo, ever since The Ultimate Fighter, I've been a fan of JoJo Calderwood. For some reason, I like
best accent in the game.
Best accent in the game. Yeah, people love the Irish accent because Connor, but I think those Scots, they've got a rough and scary sounding accent.
Shout out to all you Scots out there. You guys have a great accent.
Paul Craig did it great, and I think he's super intimidating. But I love Calderwood. I find myself rooting for her pretty much every time she steps in the ring or in the octagon, and I like to see her get it done. I think she has a good look for the sport. I think she deserves a title shot eventually once she gets in the win column and gets a nice little streak going. I just would like to see her get a shot one day.
Yeah, I think so, and I believe JoJo's 33. If I'm wrong, she's 32. I think she's got a road to a title shot. I think she's got to win this fight. But I think that window's closing on her. And so for those reasons, I would like to see her get there as well. And I do think she gets past Maia.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a stoppage. I think it's a decision, but it's probably a 30-27, 3 rounds to none, clean sweep.
She's a very
for
smart
JoJo.
fighter. Yeah. And I don't know, I'm sure Maia is a great competitor as well. I don't know a ton about her. So I really am just basing my prediction off of Calderwood and how good she is. So I don't want to pick the same thing as you on most every fights. We actually end up doing that, but I'm going to go with a TKO stoppage because she's got some good striking, some good kicks and stuff. Second round.
Second round TKO stoppage.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
See what happens.
Dun, dun, dun. That brings us to the main event.
Ooh.
Edmen Shahbazyan, the 22-year-old undefeated stud of a fighter,
Absolutely.
is taking on Derek Brunson, the
Yeah.
seasoned veteran, been around for a long time. How do you see this one playing out?
Well, Ronda's protege, Edmen, is one of those guys that's just he's blowing up on the scene. You know, there's talks about how he wanted to become the youngest UFC champion, even younger than John Jones. I think the COVID quarantine has kind of stopped him from doing that just because there was that long period of inactivity. But I have a hard time seeing anybody just breeze through Derek Brunson, especially somebody who's
Right.
not as experienced as a Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson has knocked out some of the baddest dudes that have ever done the sport, and he's got some crazy power, kind of like Robert Whitaker in that he's super explosive. When he comes on those blitzes, it's hard to deal with.
Great
And
pressure, great forward move. Yeah, great
Yeah.
forward movement, good wrestling.
great wrestling too.
Yeah.
And I know Shahbazyan and Ronda was telling Dana not too long ago that he's one of those guys, and this is largely because of his age, that he grew up training MMA. And
Right.
and MMA gyms have been around for a long time. However, they were usually run by a guy who was probably a blue to purple belt level at everything. And
Right.
you would be almost better off back in the day going to a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, high level, getting your training there, then going to a Muay Thai gym, training there. You know, Shahbazyan is young enough to where he's been around people like Ronda Rousey and his coach, Edmen. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's been able to train high-level mixed martial arts for forever. And that's probably an advantage to him now because I see MMA gyms advancing into a better place for mixed martial artists, which sounds crazy, but back in the day, it wasn't that way. You wanted to go
That's
to
a really good point.
Yeah.
You know, and just like you said, it was back in the day, the early days of MMA fighting, you would have a guy who was a blue belt or a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and who did a few months of boxing and was a tough guy and went to the gym. And then he opened an MMA gym and was teaching, you know, fighters how to quote unquote fight MMA, or as some say, fight UFC.
Right.
And it just wasn't effective because if you go down the road of really learning a martial art, so you have jiu-jitsu and you get to the level of a brown or a black belt under a really legitimate instructor, you get with a Muay Thai coach who
Right.
doesn't, whose sole focus is striking and
Spend
using
time
the
in
8
Thailand.
limbs and spend time in Thailand, and then you would take that skill set and go to an American Top Team or go to a Jackson Wink and tie it all together.
Right.
To become, quote unquote, a mixed martial artist. But that's really not the case anymore. Like you said, some people are training MMA from the beginning.
Right.
And they're learning it from the highest level instructors, and they're getting a well-rounded game from day one. So in the sense, the sport has changed in that way. And Shahbazyan's definitely, like, I always say Rory McDonald was, like, in my mind, the first one who was, this guy is an MMA fighter more than anything. But that's the whole new generation of guys that are coming up now. They're just so well-rounded in everything.
Yeah. The specialist thing, it definitely still works. If you can get with the highest level jiu-jitsu instructor and wrestlers and all but the beauty about MMA is it's evolved so much that these MMA gyms, MMA, there's no belt system, but there's people who are black belts in MMA now. And those are the people training these guys. And usually those types of gyms bring together black belts from Brazil and Muay Thai experts and wrestling, Division I wrestlers, and like George Masvidal's got Bo Nickel with him all the time.
Right.
You see these groups just kind of getting together and creating,
filling each other's gaps, really.
Right. So I think Shahbazyan, he's young enough to where he's been around black belts in MMA, which not many fighters have had the luxury of having their whole career. But I think this is going to be a great fight.
And so now down to the brass tacks.
Yeah.
Who gets their hand raised?
For the sport, I'd like to see Shahbazyan win, and I think he's capable of doing that. But I sometimes I have a hard time going against somebody that's as tough and experienced as Derek Brunson. So You know what? I'm going to go with my gut. I'm going to say Shahbazyan wins. It goes a few rounds. He gets some experience against a high-level veteran, and he gets his hand raised, maybe by a decision. But it's going to be such an explosive fight. No, I'm going to go with a TKO stoppage in the 4th or 5th round
by Shahbazyan. So you're picking Shahbazyan.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the thing. So anytime you have a young, up-and-coming fighter like Shahbazyan, who shows a ton of promise, who's, the sky is the limit for them, and you're bringing them up, you're grooming them, I always get a little cautious when I see them stacked up, see them squared up against a seasoned veteran like Derek Brunson, who's good everywhere. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, the seasoned veteran is a major underdog. Yeah. And Brunson is I believe, plus 300 underdog last time I checked. They're not giving Brunson any respect as far as the odds making goes. They think Shahbazyan is going to walk through him. And from my experience, when you undervalue a veteran that much, I think people sometimes miss certain things that are important to the game, the intangibles.
Hype is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Hype is absolutely a real thing, and I don't think Shahbazyan is hype. However, I do think he's a little overhyped to be that favored against a veteran like Brunson. So I'm gonna pick Brunson.
Okay.
I'm gonna say Brunson gets it done, ground and pound. I don't know if it's a stoppage. I'm just going to go decision, but I'm going to say he beats him up. It's the first couple rounds are close, and then the experience and the wrestling starts to take over in the later rounds. And listen, guys, I could be totally wrong, but if you like to place bets, Brunson's a major underdog, and I don't know about you. Anytime Derek Brunson's a major underdog, I might put some money on him.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing is, of all the fights on this card, that's the one to place your bet on. And Derek Brunson, Shahbazyan's an elite level striker, and so is Brunson. They're both great, and that's how this fight I see happening largely on the feet. Yeah. So anything can happen at that weight class. Those guys are big. They throw heavy hands. They throw heavy kicks. So I could actually see a stoppage or a knockout coming, and that's a great prediction.
Yeah, and also, I don't normally say this about the main event, but that does have fight of the night written all over it. I think that's going to be an excellent fight, whichever way it goes.
Absolutely.
So that's it, guys. Let's see here. So from the top, Holland and Giles. Nick and I both picked Giles. Yep. We have Lando Vanata versus Green. I picked Vanata. Did you also pick Vanata, or did you pick Green?
Green.
So Nick got Green there. Vincente Luque versus Randy Brown.
Luque.
We both picked Luque. Calderwood versus Jennifer Maia. We both picked JoJo.
Got to.
And then we differed on the main event. I selected Derek Brunson, and Nick has the young stud Shahbazyan.
Yeah.
So let us know in the comments, guys. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Make sure if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, the bell notification, and give us a like. We love the conversation that happened on our last video. We love talking to you guys. We love debating things. I think that's how we grow as fans and grow in the sport. So thanks so much for that, and keep it up, guys. We really sincerely appreciate it.
Absolutely. And if you are driving or working and you shouldn't be on your phone watching something, go check us out on the podcast app, because we're just as nice of a listen as we are a watch.
That's right. Thanks so much, guys. Have a great day.